We're here with Cinderford Rugby Club Director of Rugby, Nick Corrigan. Good afternoon. We're just going to go a few questions about last season and the future for the club. I suppose now the dust has settled after the old Albanian saga, and now that you know you've got National 1 Rugby, it might be an opportunity to review what went wrong last season, some bits that went right, and how the club's changed. I mean, do you want to start off with talking about last season?
Sure. I think it was a difficult season for the club. I think we understand our errors and we understand where we went wrong, and I think we've got to take the learning from that now and walk the walk. I think the main part of that for me is now understanding that we've got to bring a player-centred environment to the club. I think for too long we've been focused on individuals and really on hoping that what we get through is what's always worked. And I think we're pretty much a prime example, when I reflect on it, of doing what we've always done, and we've kind of got the same results. And I think bluntly we've kind of got away with it this year, and I think now's the time for us to really freshen it up, look at that coaching approach that we're taking with the players, and I also think it's time to move on, which is really important with what we want to do as a club. But I think you've got to acknowledge the past and learn from it to move forward, and to make sure that this club is in level 3 and not going through kind of annual relegation battles, which it has been for the last couple of seasons.
You mentioned so the attitude towards individual training rather than egos and things like that. I mean, how's that changed in your time here? I mean, you've come in November, I believe, to a club that wasn't doing so well. How's that changed the atmosphere? Changed for you?
I think the last people standing will show you that changing room and what it meant. The work that some of the players had done, like Mike and Clive and guys like that, and Paul Morris in the back room, to keep that team together can never be underestimated. I think what we came into was a team of individuals and people that had traded potentially upon their past. And I think now where we've got to is a group that understood themselves better, and I think that started represented in performances. And it wasn't plain sailing, it wasn't a straight trajectory either. It was very up and down, and there were some dark days in those 6 months. But now I think, as we look at it, the big word is leadership for me, and I also think it's about some ownership from the players. And so our job over pre-season is to create that environment with players, create an environment where they lead, and also create an environment where we get the right people. So I've mentioned obviously this before, but I'm looking for A+ character and B+ ability, not the other way around. And what I mean by that is, I want people to come here to enjoy the rugby. I want people to come here and understand that we have an environment that might not be right for them, and we're not fixed on the environment, but what we're fixed on, and certainly, is our values and how we do our business, and that's really important to us.
Are you looking still this summer for more players?
Yeah, so we've obviously had the new signings which we've announced. Probably looking at the minute for some more weight in the pack. Also maybe one more front rower, just having some thoughts about him. And then also looking for one or two kind of more utility backs, but probably somewhere around the centres to support, and also somebody in the back 3 to specialise there. I mean, we're blessed with a really good back line, so it's competitive. So the United rugby is going to be really important to keeping those guys hungry as well. So it's about getting the right quality of recruitment, not having an open door, but also not having some elite click. We've got to get that balance right over pre-season.
And we're at the University of Gloucestershire Oxtal's grounds, which obviously is going to be a base next year. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that's going to help your ambitions next season?
I think the first thing is we need to create a learning environment for the players. Hartbury College was fantastic. I think it is world class up at Hartbury, but we've deliberately come away from there. They're a competitor. It's not an environment that we liked towards the end, and what I think Oxtal's and the university is presenting us with is a progressive partnership, and I see the All Golds being vital to that, and I think that's going to be mutually exclusive around how we work together, around the learning that we can share. I think also the sports science resource here, we need to have some evidence. I think for too long we've been kind of quite perception based around our learning and around our views, rather than actually saying, well, this player just isn't fit enough, and these are the numbers that we value, and that's going to be really important. So Oxtal's gives us an environment, it gives us a mature environment for players to come in to do their work and learn and understand and be better people. I also think the role of the university in terms of the support that they can provide will be vital to us as well.
You also announced some new community bodies as well that bring in players not just at an elite level, like you mentioned, but also maybe off the street that would like to try out rugby? I mean, what can Cinderford offer to those sorts of people?
I think the first thing that we can offer is we talk about this notion of a community club. I don't feel that exists. I think that's a notion. I think the main thing for us is to be a beacon of people being able to come and access our sport, people being able to walk in and play for our fourth team if they're over the age of 18, or come and play for our mini and junior coaches. So by linking these centrally contracted coaches into the primary schools, into the secondary school in Cinderford, and into the university teams, we can make sure that we're developing our milk, if I use that analogy, and we're going to have cream that'll rise eventually from that. So the 6 coaches that we've got will work and ensure that we've got a pathway and we've got participation numbers. It's fair to say that the more and more I've become aware of life and the more I've seen the club, our minis and juniors need support, and they're vital to our success. We need a Cinderford way of doing things, and we need to understand that if we look after our own, the rest will follow.
You mentioned after the Esher game, the final game of the season, that inevitably kept you in National 1, that you weren't expecting the side to be a top 4 team next year, but I expect you wouldn't like to be in that position again. Where do you see yourself in 12 months' time?
I think I see us moving a step on from this and closing this chapter in the club's history around the relegation doom gone. I think a year from now, what does good look like is a challenge back to the club, but I also think the main bit is these players owning their environment, understanding how passionate our supporters are, understanding the role that they've got in the community, and understanding that our game changes lives. So I think a year from now I see us as a vibrant National 1 club that's gone on a journey and progressive change. I don't think we can have wholesale change immediately. The main bit is to fix the pitch and the on-pitch environment that we've got. I think that's coming with some intelligent young players, and I also think the main bit is about playing an expansive game of rugby that's representative of the people we've recruited. You know, if I talk about our pack a lot, we talk about big Gloucestershire packs, and I don't think we've recruited on that basis for the last 2 or 3 years. So why are we thinking we're going to play up the jumper rugby? I want us to come and play 15-man rugby. I want us to learn from the All Golds. I want us to learn from netball. I want us to learn from all the different sports and then create our own way of doing things on the pitch. I think if we get that in place, then the rest will follow.